Bonjour, je m'appelle Kylie et j'aime le parler français. Now, I know we have a couple of people who are very familiar with French, so for those of you who may not speak French, would anyone like to take a stab at trying to translate what I just said? Okay, so what I just said, oh yeah, go ahead, Kelsey.
I believe you said, "Hi, my name's Kylie and I like speaking French."
Exactly. So I think for those of you that are familiar with French, please be kind to my pronunciation because I am still learning, but this may seem kind of random that I'm learning French, but when I think about my life growing up, I've always had a sprinkling of French influence in my life because my mom is actually a French and English teacher. So when I was young, we had a VHS tape of Cinderella in French and a Simpsons episode of When They Go to France. And she used to read us a poem every night in French. And I didn't realize at the time that at that very young age, it was just building my love of the French culture and the French language. And I don't think I realized it at the time, but I always had wanted to be fluent in French like my mom. So fast forward a couple of years and I'm in high school and I have the chance to choose a language. So I thought, yes, finally, I'm going to be able to learn how to read, write, and speak French. I think we all know that the public education system doesn't do necessarily the best job of actually teaching you how to become fluent in a language, but I did learn a really good baseline for at least being able to read the French language. Fast forward a couple of more years, and I had the opportunity to go on a study abroad to London. And one of the weekends that we were in London, we went to Paris. And so that trip was monumental for me because I finally was able to see all of these sites that my mom had told me so much about. I got to see the Eiffel Tower and the Arc de Triomphe and Notre Dame. And it was just this firework moment for me that really sealed the deal of why I loved French culture and the French language. And there was a moment on our study abroad where I decided, let's go for a run around Paris because when will I ever have this opportunity again? And there was a park a couple of blocks away from the flat we were staying in. So I ran over to the park, and as I was running around, I slowly realized I had no idea where I was, and I'm in a foreign country. I don't have a phone. I don't speak the language, and my mind started racing. I started panicking, thinking, oh my gosh, what is something that I can remember that was close to the flat? And immediately, golden arches from McDonald's pop into my brain. And I think, thank the golden arches, because I think if I can find McDonald's, I can find my flat. So I'm looking around and I finally flag someone down and say, pardon, où est McDo? And she kind of looks at me, où est McDo? And I think she finally got, I'm trying to say, where is McDonald's? And she told me, take a left and two rights and you'll be fine. So thankfully I made it back to my flat, but that moment really struck me and made me realize that I don't know this language. I thought I had a basic understanding of French, but in that moment, especially when the panic sunk in that I was lost in Paris, I didn't know what I was talking about. And that really bummed me out because it made me realize that I was really far from reaching that dream of being fluent in the French language. And as we, I think, all know, dreams sometimes come and go and maybe get put on the back burner. So I didn't really prioritize learning French. But fast forward to 2020, and I think we all know, because of COVID, we had a lot more time on our hands. And I don't know about you, but I would typically use social media as a way to kind of take a break from work or life and kind of have that just moment to break away. But in 2020, it seemed like every time I opened my phone, I just felt a lot of negativity. And instead of taking a break, it was making me feel anxious or sad. And so I was looking for something that I could fill that time and take a moment without being social media. And I stumbled upon a language learning app that I think a couple of you are familiar with, and it's called Duolingo. And Duolingo was this great app for me, and it was super exciting because I was in the French language and learning French again. And at the beginning, I was closing rings left and right because all of that from my brain in high school was flooding back to me, and I felt super confident. Now, as I've gotten a little bit further along in Duolingo, I'm not progressing as quickly as I had hoped because it is getting a little bit harder. But I would like to say that I am 290 days strong on Duolingo, so coming up on a year. Thank you, thank you. And Duolingo has just been this wonderful app and release for me and bringing me back to my dream of learning the French language. And every day that I go on to Duolingo and I hear a little bit more French, I feel like I'm one step closer to realizing my dream of speaking French. And one day I hope to use that skill and maybe one day work for Disneyland Paris. And so I hope that for each of you, you have something in your daily routine that can kind of give you that joie de vivre, because it really makes a big difference. And it's really fun to see. It might be taking me small step after small step, but I'm one step closer every day to realizing my dream of learning French. Thank you.